Welcome to Lesson 13. We're going to create a simple button with a three-dimensional appearance. And it will look something like this when we get finished. Okay, to create this button, it's a fairly simple process. You start with a circle. Use your ellipse tool, and again, Shift will give you a perfect circle. Once you have your circle created, you can give it a gradient fill. And you can open up gradient here. And I'm going to do a white to black gradient. You can adjust that as you wish. You can keep it fairly dark. Okay, I'm going to take this object and I'm going to give it a heavy stroke. I'm going to go up to probably about a 30-point stroke for this particular object. I'm going to give it a stroke of black. And then, while this is still selected, I'm going to go to Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. This will take that simple stroke and outline it so that it becomes an object on its own. Okay. Next, you will need to ungroup this object. You can do that with Apple, G, and Shift, or you can go to Object, Ungroup. And you should be able to select just the inside part or just the stroke. In this case, you want to select just the stroke, and you want to apply a gradient to this stroke also. In this case, you're going to do a gradient opposite of the one that you created last time. So it's white on one side and black on the other side. And then adjust your gradient to look the way you wish. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and draw the buttonholes. I'm going to start with a simple ellipse again. And I'm just going to do basic ellipse. Sorry, undo that. Deselect. Simple ellipse, but I want it to have a black fill and a stroke of nothing. I'm going to create a small circle. And then I want to make a copy of that. I can either use my copy function under Edit, Copy, and Edit Paste. You can also use the Option key. Holding down the Option key while you click and drag will create a duplicate. I'm going to create my 4 circles. Then I'm going to align my circles using the Align palette. Doing all 4 of these. Once I'm satisfied with that, I'm going to group those together. So I'll select all 4 and group. And then I can move that group of objects over onto the face of the button. Let me get that positioning correct. I'm just using my arrow keys to move this. You can also use your mouse, of course. But for fine-tuning, I just prefer to use my arrow keys. Alright, once you have it looking like that, you'll want to select the face of the button, not the edge, but the face. And you want to select your 4 buttonholes. Okay, then you're going to need your Pathfinder palette. Okay, and again, Pathfinder is under Window if you haven't got it open already. Okay, once you have those selected, you want to find Trim, which is under Pathfinders. It's the second button from the left. Click on Trim. It will change the face, and it will also cut through the buttonholes. And you can now select your buttonholes. You'll have to ungroup this object first and select your buttonholes, and you can delete those. And you now have your button. And if you want to put this on a piece of, on an object that looks something like a cloth, there's a couple different ways that you can do this. I started with a rounded rectangle, gave it the color that I wished, and I went up to Effect and Texture, and there's a couple in here that work quite nice. I believe I used the craquelure. And there's different options that you have for all these different techniques that you can use, and these are the things that you really just need to play with. There are hundreds in here, and some of them work better than others for different types of things, but this one did look pretty nice. Those 8 tiles would work too. So it adds a little bit of a texture to that object. And then if you want it to have these soft edges, then you want to select that object again. Want to go up to Effect, Stylize, and Feather, and you can soften or feather the edge of this object. You can click Preview if you want to see what it looks like. It does take some time to render, depending on how soft you want that. Click OK, and that object can go underneath here. If it's not already under, you go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. I would probably want to make that a little bit larger as well. And there you have your button on a piece of fabric. Okay, that's the end of lesson 13.